Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are about 8 days away from the election, and we've got an updated look at the betting. Donald Trump now up 32 points in terms of overall odds, 66% chance to 34% chance. It's actually perfect, 66.0 to 34.0. So Trump at this point, I'm guessing Trump is nearly reaching the high that he had when they were deciding between Biden and Harris back in late July. That's how crazy this is. That's how catastrophic it is for liberals. Trump 66 to 34. If we entered election night 66 to 34, because I'm going to be looking at Polymarket and maybe some of the other betting sites, they're going to update every minute. And we're going to see with all the votes coming in, how does the betting react to that state by state overall? And if Trump enters election night with a 66% chance, I would take that 100%. I would take 62-38, but it might be 70-30 based on Trump potentially expanding the map even further. You can see state by state. Actually, we can just go down here to look at it easier. You've got Trump basically 75-25 in Arizona, 75-25 in Georgia, Nevada at around 65-35. Pennsylvania's gotten up to over 60-30. Wisconsin's almost at 60-40. Wisconsin's at around 60-40. Michigan is very close. There were a few close polls in Michigan that brought it down, but obviously you can lose Michigan if you win both Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and you sweep the Sun Belt. Right now, the Sun Belt is looking amazing for Trump. You also do have the popular vote. Harris still with a 20-point lead there, 60-40, but Trump's made up significant ground in terms of the popular vote. Recently, you can see Trump wins every swing state, 32% chance. That's up over the past, I think, 3 or 4 weeks by about 15 points in terms of him winning every swing state. Right now, it looks like he's the favorite in every swing state, with the only one being a toss-up, potentially being Michigan. You've also got, will the election be called on November 5th? Only a 25% chance that it gets called on November 5th. Wait, I think November 5th is election day. So yeah, it's probably not going to be called on the 5th. It'll probably be called, it depends if you're going by Eastern Standard Time or West or Pacific or what, because it's probably going to be called after midnight Eastern. So that would technically be November 6th. So that's kind of a weird thing there. But overall, these numbers are just great. We do have a lot of polls that are probably going to be coming in, I would imagine, by the day, by the minute almost here, as pollsters try and get their final polls finalized. You do have a Texas Senate poll. This is the liberal infested, some bullshit thing, C grade. Even they can't even have all red lead. So that's a liberal pollster that's graded terribly, that probably overestimates liberals, that has it as a tie. They can't even push all red above the finish line. You've also got, this is hilarious, AOC and Tim Walz. Like, they have AOC film this to try and get like football fans. Like, we're going on Twitch. It's just so disingenuous. AOC and Walls is who they're trying to appeal to when it comes to, I guess, NFL football fans, and they're doing it on Sunday during the NFL games. That's when this was happening, streaming in the middle of the witching hour. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. You've also got another poll, this one out of Minnesota. Now suddenly Minnesota potentially becoming a swing state, and the poll there, Harris up by around 2.5. And you can see Trump has improved a little. Well, I guess both of them have improved, but a 2.5 point lead for Harris. Maybe Minnesota is another state that we have to look at. And we've been looking at it, but it's been more so Virginia, New Hampshire, and even New Mexico because Trump's visiting there. You've also got early voting Arizona, Republicans sitting around +7. In 2020, Democrats were +3. Again, we'll see where this finishes up at. But if this is where it ends, where Republicans are up by 6 or 7, that is a crazy, crazy shift. We knew Republicans were going to do more early voting, but still, to be down by 3 in 2020 and now you're up by 7, that's kind of the trend we're seeing across basically every state. And it looks like Arizona, to me, would be about a 3 or a 4 point victory at this point, and then maybe even Kerry Lake barely winning the state, although it's probably still unlikely. You can see this is just a random person saying, an official call, Trump will win Georgia by at least 3%. Projection is 5.4. If Trump won Georgia by 5.5 points, that would be crazy. But no, you can see they're going with the turnout being a lot more white, it looks like, potentially helping Trump. Just in general, I think the turnout's going to be down for minorities across the country. That's the trend we're seeing in early voting, and that's going to help Trump. And you can see, I would say at this point, it's Georgia, it's Arizona, heavily leaning to Trump. I don't know if I would say 5.5. I could see 4 points, though. I mean, there's a gold standard poll that right now has Trump up in Georgia by 4 points. So it wouldn't surprise me if he won Georgia by 4, 3.5, or maybe even 4.5 points. which is it's pretty crazy considering that's been thought of as like the swing state that Harris potentially could hold. It's a state that Biden barely won in 2020. But yeah, I would say at this point, Georgia and Arizona, they're not locks for Trump. But if you're predicting an election, Georgia and Arizona, you've got to be predicting to go to Trump at this point based on everything that we've seen. If you're a Harris supporter, you could maybe say North Carolina, but even North Carolina looks like it's slipping away, and it looks like they're going for broke in the Rust Belt. That's what I would imagine. I also saw there was a Nebraska 2nd District poll that has Harris up by 12. I had said for a while, I think the 2nd District in Nebraska is pretty much gone for Trump. In the summer, I was like, oh, Trump's probably going to flip it, but it's just, it's a smaller population. It's turned more left. It is what it is. That's not the trend we're seeing throughout the country. That's just a very small subgroup of people that seemingly have gotten more liberal. Whether more people have moved into the Omaha area, it is what it is, but it's a small group of people. And I do think it will be going for Harris, the 2nd District in Nebraska, which could be very annoying if everything holds and Trump takes the Sun Belt but loses all of the Rust Belt, because then he loses 270 to 268 because of that one electoral vote in Nebraska. But that's also why Trump is trying to expand his math and maybe take a Minnesota, maybe take a Virginia, maybe take a New Mexico, maybe take a New Hampshire. You're trying to expand your math. I don't think Trump's going to get swept in the Rust Belt. I think worst case scenario, he takes Pennsylvania, loses Wisconsin and Michigan. Although even that, I think he's still taking Wisconsin and then just maybe losing Michigan. If that happens, with how good his polling numbers look right now, and especially Georgia and North Carolina, those are two very important states with the 16 electoral votes, he will win fine as long as he's able to take one Rust Belt state, because she will be, I mean, she's got no path outside of just sweeping the Rust Belt. And it seems like that's the desperation, and that's probably what they're going to go for. Their campaign is flailing right now. A new Virginia poll. This is Rasmussen. They just released this. This was done, I guess, a few days ago. Yeah, Harris sitting +2 over Trump. So another poll within the margin. And listen, so we saw a Virginia poll a few days ago on Friday. Harris +1. This one, Harris +2. There's rumors maybe there's another poll with Trump +1. I mean, this is turning into a full-blown swing state with Trump visiting and putting time in it at the end of this week on Saturday. So that's big there. You've got the Democratic firewall. I think it got hacked. Whatever happened to the firewall? The firewall is down 381K. Their firewall was 1.1 million in 2020. It's been cut into thirds, it looks like, 381K. That's not nearly as big. Look at that. Oh my God. It's Tim Walz, and like he can barely, like, it just looks, everything is so forced. You've got the Diet Mountain Dew. You've got like, this looks like a $30 monitor that they bought somewhere. I mean, this is just, you got like some intern putting up these posters behind him. Oh, it's gonna look real nice. It's just such desperation. This is what a losing campaign looks like 8 days before the election. If there was a picture that could illustrate a losing campaign with a VP that's going to lose and then Harris is going to blame him, this is the exact picture. When you're losing, this is what your campaign looks like. Maybe I should need to tweet that out. Maybe I need to tweet that because it's just such a perfect picture. The dude is pandering. It's 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. Every 1 o'clock NFL game is entering the fourth quarter, and this dude, they're with AOC, because like, oh, AOC is attractive. She's gonna draw the men in. And this is what they're doing. They're playing this game. And then he wasn't even using the correct verbiage when it came to NFL terms. He was saying that AOC was running a pick six, like a pick six was a play call. So it's just like the cringe levels. This is convincing no one. And they never should have picked Walz, especially if you're running a minority female. I know you want a white dude, but it has to be a more masculine white dude. Walz was the worst potential choice. And it's not even like Walz can help you in any state anyways. I mean, Minnesota was already probably going to be won by her. He's definitely not helping her in Minnesota. She might lose Minnesota, or it's at least going to be close. So they made a huge error. And then he's got the Minnesota Vikings with the Navy and the camo hat with the American flag. And oh my God. Florida. We've got a new poll here. Is this? Yeah, it's active vote. I don't really trust them. But Trump, I'll say, I think Trump could win Florida by about 11.5 to 12. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Senate, you've got Scott up by 10. Yeah, that's a lot for Scott. But I think Scott could win it by like 8 or 9 if Trump wins it by 11 or 12. So this doesn't surprise me at all when it comes to Florida. Florida's going to be a blowout, especially with what we're seeing trends. Florida's going to even go crazier than some of these other states because we're seeing trends to the right with how bad of a candidate Harris is and Trump being a lot more likable in 2024 rather than in 2020. So Florida, I think, a 10-point win, maybe an 11-point win, something along those lines when it comes to that. Harris challenges Trump to take a cognitive test, says she is ready. It's just such a losing campaign. It really is. Remember when we were trying to get Biden to take a cognitive test? Didn't Trump take two cognitive tests for Biden and he passed both of them? I don't even know what she's talking about. We've got early voting in Pennsylvania. Democrats were plus 41% in 2020. They're plus 29%. That's a 12% shift. Man, that firewall. God, what happened to that firewall? Maybe the Republicans need a firewall. I don't know. This is what I was talking about. AOC, and he tweets it out. So obviously it's somebody on his account doing it, but still, how do you tweet that? AOC can run a mean pick six. I can call an audible on a play. She can run a meet. That doesn't. It just doesn't make. It doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, but either way, guys, that's it's just the pandering. You've got an A pollster in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's going to be very close, but you will take the 1 point lead. It is within the margin. You've got the last minute Pennsylvania GOP surge in voter registration. They're up. They gained another 17K. Wow. I mean, they just keep gaining in terms of voter registration in Pennsylvania. The Democrats thought it was going to switch here the last few months when Republicans were gaining since 2020, but it hasn't happened. You've got Trafalgar saying that Trump's up by 2.5 in Georgia, up by 2 in Arizona as well. I would say Trump probably wins both those states by more over those margins, and that's Trafalgar, who is a right wing pollster. But either way, guys, this is the New Hampshire poll I was talking about. Right now, things do look really, really good for Trump. 66-34 right now, 32-point lead. We've got like 8 days left or whatever. It's next Tuesday. And I don't really think I think they were really trying to hit Trump. If you guys remember, I don't know which day it was last week. I mean, they're probably going to try something else, I'm sure. But their real October surprise was the fact that Trump, told his general, said that he wanted his generals to be like Hitler. Was that seriously their October surprise? Was that it? There was also the whole groping thing. Nothing came of that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, are they just throwing stuff at the wall at this point? But that hasn't done anything. It hasn't worked at all. It hasn't done anything in terms of changing anyone's mind. The polls have not changed, and at this point, it seems very, very likely that Trump is going to win this election. Ohio is done. Florida is done. You could basically say it's 99% in both of those states at this point. And Texas at 94. New Mexico's at 88-12. The interesting thing to watch will be New Mexico, Virginia, 83-17. Minnesota, 87-13. New Hampshire, 17. New Hampshire might have gone down a little bit. I don't know. I hadn't really been following it. But those would be the interesting states to watch in terms of the betting if we get more polls out of those and it gets closer, especially Virginia. But either way, guys, that'll do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.